Hello, and how are you this evening? This is Sister Kathy, and we are going to get right into this is part three of Breaking the Invisible Chains. Um, Kind of sitting kind of odd, so I'll be kind of looking off, but turn my body a little bit, maybe it'll help. Okay, so we're talking about breaking the invisible chains. Remember when we started this series, we said that there was a difference. You need to understand the difference between your brain and your mind. In fact, you needed to understand that your brain has a function. It is considered an organ. Therefore, it has a function to process information. We also told you that your mind is your consciousness, your awareness, your beliefs, your values. So it's what you when you process the information is actually what you believe. So in keeping that in mind, so we know that the mind is your consciousness, is your thoughts, your ideas. So basically, what that means is the point of the series is to let you know that you have the power to control the things that you process, how you process them, and the things that you think of, that you allow into your thought system, the things that you allow into your consciousness. You are designed to be able to control your mind, the things that you think of. Keep in mind that the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So the one thing you want to be is in control of your mind. Because whatever you think, that's who you are. Whatever you believe, whatever you value, whatever thoughts you process become not just a part of you, but they become you. That's who you are. So we talked about the difference between the brain and the mind. We talked about um, control and the emphasis. You got to go back and watch part one and part two if you haven't already, because it talks about how he wants you to be in control, and how a person who cannot control what they think of. We talked about things like depression. We talked about things like reoccurring nightmares. We just talked about that sense of just feeling out of control. We talked about people who suffer from nightmares because they remember traumatic events from their past, how you are pretty much like a zombie sometimes because the thoughts from your past are so prevalent, they're so strong. It seems as if you can't escape them. But there is a way to escape them. One of the first things I asked you to do was get a piece of paper and write 10 things down to replace those traumatic thoughts or terrible thoughts, horrible thoughts, or not bad thoughts, so we could begin the practice of blocking them. I also said when you write those 10 things down, those are the 10 things that we will get used to replace the things that you don't need to think of. So tonight we're talking about determining why certain thoughts don't qualify to be in your life, in your present world. Remember, this whole series is about eradicating those past thoughts, because anything from your past that brings you down, that depresses you, that makes you feel horrible about yourself, any of those things. You may have had a mother who said negative things about you. You'll never be anything just like your father. We've heard it all before. And I'm not downplaying it. I'm just trying to get to this point. All of these things that people say to you, all of these things that people have done to you in your past, you may have been molested, you may have went through a terrible divorce, you may have been through an abusive relationship, you may have been through bullying at school, where your self-esteem has pretty much been broken, and at the same time, it's been molded because of all the bad things that were said about you, all of those things, because you didn't have a filter up to block those thoughts out. It may have molded you or branded you into believing that you were those things that those people said about you, or you are um, that part of that traumatic event. So we want to directly go in strong and take our position as now being what we are, creative thinkers. We have the ability to form our own opinions and thoughts about and values about who we are. So we want to block out, we want to filter, right? Put that filter up so those things don't even get a chance to soak into our system, soak into our belief pattern. And so we're moving on. So reasoning, determining why they don't qualify in your life, these terrible things, these traumatic events. Um, so one of the things we want to talk about is just logically, determining what qualifies in your present world right now. So I want you to think of, actually I don't want you to think of it, but you can just think of like the most horrible thing that someone has ever said to you, or the most horrible thing that someone has ever done to you. And I really want you to think about it. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my history and some of the things that were said to me. So in my childhood, I was often told things like, I was black, I was ugly, I was four-eyed, I'm never going to be anything, I'm not smart, you think you this, you think you that, by people who shouldn't have said those things to me. And when I was a young lady, I was blessed because I actually never believed them, and I had a real strong. I guess I just had very high self-esteem. I don't know where I got it from, or I had very high confidence, and I thank God for that. But I mean, those things did bother me, but I pretty much lived my life, the way that I wanted to, and I pretty much had great thoughts about myself, and I pretty much believed that I could accomplish like anything I wanted to do, and I really just didn't believe it. So let's just say though that those are the thoughts that you have or that you've had. Those thoughts, the things that people say, are going to carry some weight. They are going to carry some weight. So what you need to do is to learn not to identify with the um, the person who was projecting those words or values to you. You're going to have to learn how to not accept those thoughts. So remember I told you the first time about looking in the mirror and practicing and saying that, the good things about yourself. I am a great mom. I'm beautiful. I'm intelligent. I'm smart. I can do this. I can do that. So what you want to do is you kind of want to go back and revisit that idea of confronting yourself and your beliefs in the mirror and saying to yourself, the power of life and death is in the tongue. You can't even imagine how life changing just speaking over yourself is. It is it's incredible because you can tell yourself every day that, I'm going to do well in school, I'm going to continue my education, I'm going to continue to work while I pursue my education, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And every day you can get up and you can look in that mirror, and for the first month you'll say, I can do this, I can do this, I'm doing it, I can do it, I can do it. And then after those 30 days pass by, you can look back over the last 30 days that you just invested into your education, into valuing yourself, into evaluating your life situation. And from there, you can say, you know what? I've made it 2 weeks. I've made it a month. I've made it, you know, 21 days. I just have to continue on this pathway that I'm on. And if you continue on that pathway, pretty soon, just by nature itself, one thing that I love to say is practice makes perfect, even if you're practicing the wrong thing. So just keep in mind that whatever you practice becomes a part of your nature. With that being said, you want to continue practicing confronting the issues from your past, replacing them with good thoughts, as I said in the first, in part one of the series. You want to continue that model. Okay? Now, since we've jumped into modeling, I told you when we left off the last time that we were going to get into mapping. Mapping is a process that you use to pretty much black and white your goals and your progress. Okay, and it goes back to is giving you a model that you can set yourself by, so you can monitor, observe, so you can see your progress for yourself, and you can also see if you do not progress, you can see that you will stay in the position or return to the position that of your former position, the position that you were last in. You'll return to it, or you'll see that you haven't changed. Okay, so mapping is very important. It's one of the tools that you're taught to use. As I was pursuing my degree in education, it was very important so you could see what the students were learning and how you were progressing with your classroom curriculum. And thank you, viewers, for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate it. You're going to learn so much. This is a powerful series, Breaking the Invisible Chains. So, going into reasoning, determining why things don't qualify in your life, what we want to do, what I would want you to do, we already talked about the 10 things or more that you will write down that you begin to replace with the negative or bad things or whatever you want to call them. But now I'm going to suggest that you begin to map. And let's see, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. I think you will though. Yeah. Okay. I gotta move it around a little bit. I'm doing pretty good. Other way. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, I have a terrible handwriting, but right here, I want the circle to represent where you are right now. Okay? So the circle represents who you are right now. I'm troubled. I'm depressed. I'm not my best. I don't feel like I'm the best wife. I don't feel like I'm the best mom. Whatever your thoughts or your feeling might be right now about yourself that are negative or impacting your life in some type of way, I want you to take a look at that because the circle represents who you are right now. So we're talking about mapping. The next thing that'll be on your map is what I call, it's like a cross, you know. Yeah, so it's a shape. So we'll just say it's a cross. Because that's going to represent in your mapping, is going to represent what I said about using that scripture where it says things that are lovely, things that are pure, things that have a good report. It's going to represent those 10 things that you initially wrote on that first list from part one. And thank you, viewers, for joining me. This is Sister Kathy. We're going through the mapping right now. The square represents change. And I like this square because we all know that a square and a circle are really not the same shapes. So that's pretty much easy for you to identify with. So the circle represents who you are right now. The cross represents the change. You using the word or the principles or the let's see, using the skills that I taught you for change. And then the square represents the outcome or the result of you using the word of God or or whatever to change your life. So if we continue on here, you will see our little model. So you have a circle here which represents you, who you are right now, your thoughts. Whether you believe I'm not a good mom, I'm not a good wife, I'm not a good husband, I'm going to fail at school, whatever you believe. So then here we have, and this is kind of backwards, so I'm going to get it. Here we have the other shape, which is the cross. I would say open X, whatever you want to call it. And that represents you using scriptures or positive things or whatever to change your life. So right here, you're going to see that if you use the things that I've been teaching you, like looking in the mirror and confronting yourself with who you are, and using the principles that you want to identify what's been said, and using that replacement strategy that I taught you, right here in this X or this cross is where you should experience a change. And then you see the arrow pointing down, and I know it's kind of distorted, but you'll get the idea. You see the arrow pointing down because if you follow that strategy, that principle, or whatever, that model, then you're gonna see a change. Now it might not be like a huge change. Let's just say that you had that thought for some reason. You believe that you weren't a good mother. Let's just say that. You'll never be a good mom. You probably went through a divorce, whatever the case may be. Plug anything in there that applies to your life. So let's just say that that's your thought. Now, on that list of 10 things that you wrote on there maybe that I am a great mom, and you wrote one thing: because I always make my children breakfast. Just anything. It doesn't have to be something huge, but you're transforming that mind. You're transforming the way you think. You're transforming the way you feel about yourself. You're transforming. You're getting a new identity. So you're right here at that crossroads. And if you do that, let's just say you start doing that for 1 week. Okay? That next following week, what did I say? You can practice something, and no matter what you practice, it's going to become permanent. Practice makes perfect, even if you're practicing the wrong thing. So if you're practicing the right thing, you see that arrow? What's going to happen is you're going to see some change. And that represents a new you. So that means you followed the model, right? It produced, or the result is a change. So you've gone from being what you used to be, I'm going to get this, which is a circle, to a square, which is where you want to be. Okay? So you could just say the goal has been achieved. The goal has been achieved. From there, you can go on to who you are again, but I mean, you're a new you, right? You're a new you because you got rid of some stuff right in here. So the new you can go on to some new challenges and face some new things to create some new ideas. So we'll be going back to the cross. Or I want you to look at this map. Let's just say you don't follow the strategies, you don't follow the principles, you don't follow the models, you don't follow the information. So here you are here. You have a decision to make right here. Am I going to apply the things that were taught to me in part 1 and part 2, or am I not? Because if you don't apply the different principles, I want you to see what happens over here. You drop right back down to being the same old you. And that's not what we want you to do. We want you to be a new you. And in order to do that, you really have to practice the principles and the strategies that I've been talking about, which are very, very simple. And I know you've probably heard them 1,000 times. But a lot of times, the reason why we don't experience change in our lives is because we just don't start to practice the things that will bring about a change in our lives. It's kind of like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds before the summer gets here. If I don't start to exercise and eat right, then how close am I going to be to my goal when the summer gets here? So, one of the things you have to do in changing your mind and changing the way we think is you have to take on some responsibility and some accountability. Okay? So you want to put the things into practice, and you want to use the strategies that I've talked to you earlier about in part 1 and part 2, which is, confronting that situation, having those things that you want to replace those negative or thoughts with. Okay. And so then another thing I want you to pay attention to, since you've been looking at the map for a while, you pretty much probably have it already. But another thing I want you to look at is think about is at any point during this time, if you decide that you no longer want to continue with those strategies, because we're talking about a new you. We're not talking about it's not like a one-time fix, right? It's a one-time learning experience, because once you learn something, it should become like part of your nature, like part of who you are, and you will continue on that journey. So, but if at any time, just to give you a visual of what I'm talking about. At any time that you decide, hey, this is who I am, and I need to change, and you go through this process, then you're fully changed, and let's just say you're a square. You went from a circle to a square. But at any time you decide, you know what, I'm not going to put those things into practice. I'm not going to take the time to effect change in my life. Then if you decide that your answer is no to those things, then you go right back into being a circle. Okay? So it's always about like making that decision and following through. You have to follow through. Okay? So it's very important that you begin to just understand that you're in a position where you can walk in power, and that is like the most important thing for you, just to understand that you can control the things that you think. You can control the things that bombard your mind every day. You have the power, you do have the ability to take control of your life. Remember, I said that the first thing that you have to have is control, because self-control is important. And if you don't have self-control, if you can't control the way you think, if you can't control the way you behave, if you can't control the way you respond, then you're not in control of your life. You know, somebody else is controlling your life. And it may be a thought from, 20 years ago controlling your life. And so, but you need to be in a position of control. You need to put those filters up. You need to put those blocks up, and everything that does not qualify to be in your present life right now, you need to eradicate it. You don't need to, don't toy around with it. Get it out. Whatever it is, whatever it is. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be thoughts of molestation, thoughts from a bad divorce. It could be whatever your worst experience is in life. Even if you fail in a business contract. And you know how sometimes people have a plan, they have a business plan, they have a vision. Thank you, and thank you so much for joining me on New You. And then it'll all fall through. It'll all fall apart, you know. And instead of picking up the pieces and moving on from where you are right now, a lot of people just get stuck right there, and they feel like such a failure. It's not that you're a failure. Yeah, you have failed like millions of people do in the business world and in life. But the thing is, you have to get back in control. You have to get that mind back going and moving in the direction that it needs to move in, so you can be successful. Okay? Because you can be successful. You can be successful in life. You can be successful in marriage. You can be successful in relationships. You can be successful in anything in life if you have the right mind. Okay? Because hey, money can do a lot of things for you, and money is power. But the greatest power at the end of the day is just to be in control of your own life, and be in control of your own thoughts, and be in control of your own world. And the best recipe for that is learning how to quickly and effectively eradicate those things from your past, the things that do not belong in your life right now. Okay, so next week, what we'll be talking about is planning, which is effective strategies to reinforce your desires, justifying why you change your mind. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and it was funny because they were kind of experiencing something that I experienced years and years ago, and it was just a simple thing. One day I was walking, and I was walking with my head held down, and I don't know why I was walking with my head held down, and I guess I didn't even realize that for the most part, I wasn't holding my head up, facing people directly, making that eye contact or whatever. So this was years ago. So I made a choice to start holding my head up and looking people directly in their eyes. Okay, and it was just something so simple that just came to me. From the spirit of God, I would say. And I was like, okay, I need to start holding my head up and facing people. And I had a lot of issues with anxiety in the past, a little, stress disorders or whatever. I won't call it disorder, but anxiety. I would easily get frustrated and nervous around people. So I started doing that, and it was funny because it was like the day I decided to do it. Several people said to me, well, no, it was like weeks later or so. They said to me, "Why are you walking around with your head up in the air, with your nose up in the air? You think you're better than other people?" And it just struck me as funny because here I am, a person who was walking around with her head down for the most part and didn't even realize it because I had so much anxiety and I was just so nervous for the most part to be around, a lot of different people that at the time when I decided that I was going to start holding my head up and looking at people, eyeball to eyeball, and get out of that fear. Okay, get out of that structure of fear and come to a new design, get out of my circle and become a square. Immediately people were like, why are you, it's basically like saying, why are you trying to turn into a square, if we put it with my analogy tonight with the mapping. So we want to talk about planning effective strategies to reinforce your desires and justifying why you're changing your mind. And sometimes you may not be fully aware of the changes that you're making. I mean, or how you're going to make them, but you need to make them. And so when you make a change, when you start making these little bitty changes, they're going to seem small and simple to you, but other people are going to start to recognize they're changing you. They're going to start recognizing that your shape is changing. They're going to start seeing that the way you think is changing. And that's that power. That's that power that you want in your life because you want them to see that change. You want to experience that change because if you can experience that change and they can see that change in you, then hey, you've just increased your value. You've just increased your worth. You've just became a stronger person. You've just became more forceful. You've just became, hey, more impactful because you've grown. Okay? You've grown. So, and that's very, very important when it comes to family, relationships, on your job, everything. It's important that we become as strong of a person as we possibly can. And so you want to know that you're making those changes for you, your family, or whatever value system you want to put on it because you want to be able to stand strong in the face of adversity or challenges. Especially, if you kind of hang around a group of people and they know you from your past or, from previous events or circumstances or whatever, you want to be able to just stand firm on the changes that you're making because they're going to change the way that you live and change the way that you see the world. And by you changing, it's going to affect other people. And that's the type of change, that's the type of power that you want to experience. You want to experience life changes. You want to experience power. And when you do that, it's going to be so explosive that I'm telling you, immediately people around you will begin to notice. And they may not say anything. They may not say anything. They might ask you a question, which would suggest that they want to know if you really are changing from a circle to a square. Okay, going back to my whole mapping concept or modeling. So stay tuned. I do this every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. I only run these sessions for 30 minutes because I feel like that's enough time to kind of keep it concise and plain and simple, and something that you can immediately begin to apply to your life. So the sessions are only 30 minutes. Tonight we talked about reasoning. If you can remember, it was the entire sessions will be control, which we did last week, reasoning, which was tonight, planning, which will be next Sunday at 8 o'clock p.m., and then the last one will be visioning. All of them are powerful. All of them are life changing. I want you to join me next week at 8 o'clock on Ustream Live. Okay. This is Sister Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me on New You. And I think I have one more thing, one way I like to end this. As I flip through my notes, you can be a new person, and you need to understand that it's not about suppressing your past. It's not about pretending it never happened. It's about facing it. Okay, we are saying yes, it did happen or happen. It's over. It's in the past. Now my life is, and you can fill in that blank however you want to. Faith is not last year. It's not 20 years ago. It's not 50 years ago. Now faith is. So whatever transformation, whatever you're believing to happen, whatever you need to eradicate, change, now is the time. Why wait? And I believe that if you follow these principles, if you follow through, you're going to experience a victory in your life like never before. And I believe when you begin to see those changes, you're going to gravitate towards that power, and you're going to want more, and you won't quit until you're walking in that power, until you are satisfied with the new you. I'm telling you, just like a kid getting candy for the first time when he figured it out. He's like, oh my God, mama, are we going in the store? Because I got to get some more of whatever I got the last time we were here. Or going and getting that first toy. So again, thank you for joining me. This is New You. I have recorded these videos so you can go back and watch them at your leisure. Please do invite your friends to join at 8 o'clock on Sundays. Go back and watch these videos. Let your friends watch them, your family, because they are powerful and they're going to impact your life. If you have any questions, you have any concerns, you can always, I think it's a way on here that you can chat or click or send me a question or whatever. Be more than happy to try to answer your questions. More than happy to try to help you with anything that I possibly can. Thank you for joining me. This is New You, Sister Kathy. See you next Sunday at 8 o'clock. Bye.